There's a lot of important news coming out of Washington, D.C. these days. The news indicates that the country is at a crisis point between freedom and tyranny. The question is, are the people going to continue to be free to exercise their rights as they see fit, or is the government going to continue encroaching on the rights of the people, so much so that in time the people will not have freedom to talk about? Recently, the Supreme Court, in upholding Obamacare, in effect upheld the power of the federal government to tell individuals that it is all right for the government to demand that they act against their conscience in mandating the payment of insurance for things that are inimical to the religious conscience, such as abortion funding. In the House of Representatives, luckily, there was a vote condemning or holding in contempt of Congress the Attorney General of the United States for refusing to turn over documents the Congress needed to continue its investigation of the parameters of the Fast and Furious scandal, a gun-running scandal in which a federal law enforcement officer was murdered. The government, as we know, is constantly developing more and more regulations as applied to businesses. These regulations are so onerous that they circumscribe the ability of businesses to do business as they see fit. The result of all this is that businesses are hesitant to make the investments they would make if they did not have these regulations. One effect of this is that business is not able to expand, and therefore business is not able to hire more and more people and thus provide for a growing economy. Now, the root of all this, the root of the government's desire to force people to act against their religious conscience, the government's intent to prohibit Congress from having access to documents which it needs in order to explore thoroughly a scandal involving government officials, and the ability of businesses to act like businesses, to be able to have the freedom to pursue their goals without undue government interference, is freedom itself. So we have before us now a government that seems bent on tyrannizing the people, and we have, on the one hand, on the other hand, the people who obviously, according to the polls, resent this infringement on their freedom by the people. Now, what's really needed is a coalescence of the people, of the groups who see their freedom being more and more circumscribed by the people. So what we really need to combat this march toward tyranny on the part of the government is a coalescence of people and organizations who wish to prevent this from happening. This involves firearms rights groups and individuals, religious rights groups of individuals, including Catholic bishops with their Fortnight for Freedom. It involves businesses who wish to be free to do what businesses do that is, make money and hire people and expand the economy. We need a coalition of all of these people and interests because their objective is really the same. It is, for one reason or another, the preservation of freedom and the curtailment of the growing power of the government. Now, we have an election coming up in just a few months, in November, in which the delineation of forces is quite clear. On the one hand, we have the forces who represent freedom. On the other hand, we have the forces who represent tyranny and a desire to grow further and further government and government's power over the people. Representing the tyranny, the forces of tyranny, obviously, is President Obama and his supporters in the Congress of the United States. That is, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. It is essential for the preservation of freedom and for the curtailment of the power of government that people and organizations who desire to increase their freedom and to curtail the power of government, whatever their backgrounds are, or whatever their specific interests are, it is essential for the lovers of freedom to fight tyranny, to fight government tyranny. And the lovers of freedom will have an opportunity to do this in a very peaceful way when the elections come up in November. It is time for various groups who are disparate in their particular interests, but who are united in their desire for freedom and in their desire to prevent the development of tyranny in the United States, to come together, to coalesce, to work together for the defeat of tyranny, for the defeat of Obama, and for the defeat of his supporters in the United States House of Representatives and in the United States Senate.